Hello, it's Danica, one of your program associates at the Saskatoon Public Library. I'm here today for another Grown-up Storytime. Now, I love living in Saskatoon. I love being part of this territory, Treaty 6 territory, where people have gathered to listen and tell stories for more than 10,000 years. It's such a special and sacred place to me. Now, today I'm going to read poems from two different poets, and we're going to go far away and we're going to go near. So I'm going to start with Glenn Storsted's Hazards of Eden, Poems from the Southwest, and this was published by Lamar University Press. And then I'm going to go on to something that is a little bit different from what I've been reading. This is Tar Paper and Wild Roses by Violet M. Copeland. And this is a book that was published in 1979 in Maidstone, Saskatchewan. Now, I lived in Maidstone for a short amount of time, and in 2005, when we celebrated the centennial of Saskatchewan, I was in a play that she wrote for Saskatchewan's 75th anniversary, and some of the actors who'd been in the 75th anniversary production were also in the production in 2005 for the centennial. And one of the really interesting other little bits of trivia is that the other lead in that production in 2005 was Violet Copeland's grandson. And so that was a really special thing that I was connected to that. And so I've connected this also to Maidstone with the painting behind me, because this is a watercolor by Eleanor Robertson, who's a Saskatchewan painter based in Maidstone. So we're going to start by going far. We're going to Glenn Storsted's book, Hazards of Eden, Poems from the Southwest, published by Lamar University Press. Winter in Galveston. The yellow cab minivan picks us up at our hotel to deliver us to Gato's Seafood Restaurant, further down the seawall. An affable Haitian named Jean is our driver. He has a woman riding in the front seat as co-pilot. We crawl into the back. En route, Jean tells us he's now 10 years removed from the poverty and never-ending strife of his island homeland. When we tell him about the cold we have left, he shakes his head in near disbelief, as if the mere thought of temperatures in negative digits is data a Haitian imagination cannot fathom. He wears a down-filled jacket because it is cold. It is 60 degrees F, warm enough for us. Weather and chance have brought all of us together, a convergence of strangers, all of us drawn here to weather our time in this place. Life is a highway. We drive the interstate towards San Antonio, and I am enjoying being behind the wheel of this rented German road machine that clings to the road and purrs contentedly to itself. A sign announces the next exit as Comfort. I pass without comment, but I do note how appropriate it feels here, this moment, inside the Passat. All is well. Comfort, indeed. Further along the concrete, another sign says, the next exit, believe it or not, welfare. Only in Texas can one forsake comfort for welfare and still be on the right road. The Big Texan Steak Ranch. At a time when more than half the children in the world are undernourished, many dying or debilitated for lack of food, it would seem gross indecency, an insult to the famished, to find a restaurant that encourages diners to commit the sin of sheer gluttony by eating or trying to eat 72 ounces of beefsteak along with all the extras, free, if you can devour the gargantuan meal, trimmings and all, entirely, and do so within 1 hour. Most nutritionists, let alone anyone with a lick of common sense, would be adamant that 4.5 pounds of beef in a single meal constitutes what should be an indictable offense. Yet here, in Amarillo, we are urged to poison ourselves with a cholesterol tsunami enough to destroy a normal digestive system, not to mention clog 1,000 miles of arteries and keep heart and stroke specialists gainfully busy, all in the name of keeping ranchers raising their prize herds of black Angus. In the land of excess, we just close our eyes, slap the faces of the impoverished, and pretend we deserve what we have. "50,000 coyotes can't be wrong." Climbing up through the Oregon mountains, we pass through Cloudcroft. The name conjures up sheep pastures. The weather is cool but bright, and a few small clouds gambol over the New Mexico sky. At Mayhill, a neon Coors sign crooks a finger from a small roadside saloon, and I spin sharply from the asphalt to stop before its door. Mid-afternoon, and Mayhill's so small we have the place to ourselves, except for a few old boys who stare at us without embarrassment as we settle behind cans of Coors. Behind the bar, a 40-ish man in a Miami Vice hat serves and looks as if he wants to be elsewhere. There's a wanted sign behind him. It seems what's wanted in Mayhill are good drinkers, loose women, and a piano player, in that order. The sun is streaking the front window, but the saloon is dark until our eyes adjust to the gloom and make out the small stage, a pool table, a small adjoining card room, and vacant tables ringed with vacant chairs. The place could have been a set for Gunsmoke, but it's near empty and with lamb clouds rollicking through the sky. It's hard to imagine the joint alive with leathery-faced cowpokes, twisting smokes from Bull Durham sacks, squinting at each other through the smoke and dimness while a fiddler scrapes his bow and a guitarist beats out rhythm. But 50,000 coyotes can't be wrong. Another sign behind the bar assures. It's urging us to eat more lamb, but lambs are eating the light from the sky, and we have miles to drive before nightfall. Back in the car, we wheel away from Mayhill, down to plains that stretch to Texas and beyond. The lambs have fled the sky, and the coyote sun shadows us all the way to Artesia. And so those are poems by Glenn Sorsted from Hazards of Eden, Poems from the Southwest, and this was published by Lamar University Press. And if you ever get a chance to hear Glenn read in person, please do so. In fact, if you ever get a chance to hear any of our wonderful Saskatchewan poets read in person, find them at the library, at bookstores, at other events, all the time throughout our region. And so the other book I'm reading from today is Tar Paper and Wild Roses by Violet M. Copeland. And this was published in Maidstone in 1979, and it was printed by the Maidstone Mirror. Tar Paper and Wild Roses. The times were hard and the tools were crude with repetitive constant labor, her knuckles mute proof of the washboard's mood. They were miles from the nearest neighbor. They were on their own with a broken bone, death or birth and the laws of Moses, but they laughed at hardships and bitter cold thanks to tar paper and wild roses. Oh, those first wild woes when the gardens froze before they were half through growing, and those crops crisp black as a sexton's hat, no more than seed for sowing. A woman would grit her teeth and pray for strength to fight one more season, while they saved what they could and grew stooped and gray. Wild roses would save her reason. Something of beauty to feast her eyes, while she patched and schemed and mended, stretching the stew, setting bread to rise, something fragrant and sweet and splendid. While he worried most about biting cold, a good house through shiplap was dear, but the crops froze black, and the makeshift shack must serve yet another year. Threshing wages were just a dream, with no crops left for threshing. With luck they would manage flour and beans, and putty for window sashing. But the coveted prize, in a homesteader's eyes, was the pungent tar paper roll, which would crown his castle with windproof warmth and camouflage, crack or hole. The wood stove smoked and the rafters croaked, and good water was scarce as money, but they melted snow or hauled from a slough, and some of them found it funny. Wild ducks and chickens supplied good stew, and feathered their sweet reposes, and they built the West because they were blessed with tar paper and wild roses. Country Schoolhouse. This is the last June day. Long shafts of sunlight will filter through the worn keyhole, striking gold from the nails in the old wood floor, gilding the back of a tangled head, too far for a small arm's reaching, and the row of lunch pails straggling down the shelf by the heart-scarred door. Look long at the grass-fringed yard, whose bald dome tells the story of leapfrog and baseball and prisoner's base and the little ones hide and seek. At the well-worn path past trees and fence, whose strands stretch wide and yawning, from swift passage and hasty dash for a dip in the pasture creek. This is the last long look. By next September, the weeds will grow rank, untrampled and warm with sun, and the tongue of the old brass school bell will peal no longer, for the day of the country schoolhouse is nearly done. Poet's Year. Summer comes coaxing with bluebells and roses, blossoming gossamer pendant in time, strawberry scarlet where bent leaf exposes, meadowlark blotting out reason or rhyme. How can we write, silver willows unfolding? Who could hold pen when a warbler sings? Who could sit still with the lilacs exploding and all the world throbbing with busy bright wings? Soon, tiger-furred bees in the amethyst clover, goldenrod candles where hummingbirds were, whisper to poets that summer is over, and deep in their somnolence some small something stir. Now to the business of pencil and paper, hay in the meadow where coy grass plumed proud, wheat in swathed ribbons, and steers on the caper, roundup and harvest, and snow in the clouds. The old house. It stands in a sheltered hollow, where hills join hands in a ring, surrounded by powdered poplars, and willows where catskins swing, where daisies spatter the grasses, in a yard where children play, but the voices echo no longer, for the family has gone away. Those roses are God's wild roses that grow by the weathered door, where the flat white stones by the doorstep form a path that is trod no more. The heart-leaf vines are sprawling, and the grass is grown to hay, but the empty swing that is waiting for the family who went away. The coolest breezes could find us by the old house in the shade, where we sewed our fanciest doll clothes, and the keenest cricket was played. And surely the sweetest babies were the babies who learned to play, taking first brave steps in its shadows, the family who went away. It stood, but it stands no longer, where the hills join hands in a ring, where the poplar grove still whispers and the yellow catkins swing. But the door which opened so often has ceased from its task today, and will open to greet no longer the family who went away. I hope you have a good day, and thank you for joining me.